For years, they had lived in each other's shadows, two titans of football locked in an eternal dance of excellence. Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi, names that would echo through history, forever intertwined like two sides of the same legendary coin. Their rivalry had defined an era, pushing both men to heights that seemed impossible for mere mortals. Now, as the autumn of their careers approached, they found themselves united for something greater than any individual accolade or team trophy. The charity match had been organized to raise funds for global humanitarian efforts, a cause that transcended borders, languages, and even the fiercest sporting rivalries. The world watched with bated breath. Media outlets from every corner of the globe had descended upon the stadium, their cameras hungry for what many believed would be the final chapter in the greatest rivalry football had ever known. Sponsors lined up, celebrities reserved their seats, and millions of fans prepared to witness history. But then, like a whisper cutting through a thunderstorm, came news that would shake the very foundations of this grand spectacle. The hotel lobby buzzed with nervous energy as journalists and officials huddled in small groups, their voices barely containing their disbelief. Messi's agent had delivered the message with the clinical precision of a surgeon. Lionel Messi would not be participating in tomorrow's match. No press conference, no grand farewell, no theatrical goodbye to satisfy the cameras and the crowds who had traveled thousands of miles to see him play. He just wants to leave, the agent had said, his words hanging in the air like smoke from a dying fire. Leo doesn't want to talk to the media. He doesn't want a farewell ceremony. He simply wants to go home to his family. The news spread through the hotel like wildfire. Executives frantically worked their phones, trying to salvage what they could of the event. Broadcasters rewrote their scripts. Sponsors reconsidered their investments. The beautiful game, it seemed, would lose one of its greatest sons, not with a bang, but with a whisper. High above the chaos, in the penthouse suite that had been reserved for football royalty, Cristiano Ronaldo stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, looking out at the city lights that twinkled like earthbound stars. His phone had been ringing incessantly, his agent, the event organizers, journalists seeking comment, but he had ignored them all. In his mind, he was no longer in this gleaming hotel room. He was back in 2009, a young man with fire in his eyes and dreams bigger than the Santiago Bernabéu itself. It was his first El Clasico as a Real Madrid player, and across the pitch stood a quiet Argentine who seemed to glide across the grass like poetry in motion. The rivalry hadn't started that day, it had been born from it. Every goal Messi scored pushed Ronaldo to score too. Every record the Argentine broke became a target for the Portuguese to surpass. They had driven each other to greatness with an intensity that bordered on obsession. 2011 flashed before his eyes, the El Clasico matches that had divided households and friendships. For matches in 18 days, each one a masterpiece of tactical warfare and individual brilliance. Messi dancing through Madrid's defense like a ghost, while Ronaldo answered with thunderbolts that defied physics and logic. Then came 2012, and Ronaldo's tears as he watched Messi lift yet another Ballon d'Or. The Portuguese had worked himself to exhaustion that year, rewriting record books and pushing his body beyond its limits, only to watch his rival claim the individual prize that meant everything to both of them. But Messi had his own moments of despair. 2016, the Copa America final. Watching Ronaldo celebrate Portugal's European championship while he himself had tasted defeat once again with Argentina. The weight of a nation's expectations crushing his shoulders as he briefly announced his retirement from international football. They had been each other's measuring stick, the standard by which greatness was defined. When Messi moved to Barcelona's youth academy, nobody could have predicted that a boy from Madeira would become his greatest rival. When Ronaldo signed for Manchester United, the football world didn't know that an Argentine magician was already weaving spells at the Camp Nou. The memories flooded back with vivid clarity. The 2017 Champions League quarter-final, when Ronaldo's hat-trick at the Bernabéu had effectively ended Barcelona's European campaign. The standing ovation from the Barcelona faithful, a rare moment when rivalry gave way to pure appreciation of genius. Messi's response had come in La Liga, dismantling Real Madrid with performances that reminded the world why he was considered the greatest by many. The 2017 El Clasico at the Bernabéu, where he silenced 80,000 Madridistas with a last-minute winner, holding up his jersey to the crowd in a moment of pure, unbridled emotion. Their careers had been a constant game of chess, each move carefully calculated, each success immediately answered by the other. When Ronaldo conquered England, Spain, and Italy, Messi made Barcelona his kingdom. When the Argentine dominated La Liga, Ronaldo collected Champions League trophies like treasures. The individual awards had been split almost equally between them, a testament to their sustained excellence over more than a decade. 12 Ballon d'Or awards shared between two men, leaving the rest of the football world to fight for scraps. But now, as Ronaldo stood in that hotel room, he realized that their greatest achievement wasn't the goals, the trophies, or the individual accolades. It was the way they had pushed each other to transcend the limits of human possibility. They had created a standard of excellence that might never be matched, a period in football history that future generations would study like scholars examining ancient texts. The Portuguese superstar picked up his phone and scrolled through the contacts until he found the number he was looking for. His thumb hovered over Messi's name for a long moment. They had rarely spoken off the pitch. Their relationship had been defined by mutual respect from a distance, professional courtesy mixed with competitive fire. But tonight was different. Tonight, the competitive fire had given way to something deeper, a recognition that they were bound together by something more profound than rivalry. They were two artists who had painted masterpieces on the same canvas, two musicians who had composed symphonies that only they could truly understand. Ronaldo didn't call. Instead, he pocketed his phone, slipped on a jacket, and made his way to the elevator. The hotel corridor was eerily quiet as he walked toward room 2147, his footsteps muffled by the plush carpet. Security personnel recognized him immediately, stepping aside with respectful nods. He stood outside Messi's door for what felt like an eternity, his hand raised to knock but frozen in mid-air. What words could possibly capture the complexity of their relationship? How do you address someone who has been your greatest rival, your unwitting motivator, your mirror image in so many ways? Finally, he knocked. 3 soft taps that echoed in the hallway like heartbeats. The door opened slowly, and there stood Lionel Messi, not the magician who had mesmerized crowds for over a decade, but a tired man in his late 30s, wearing a simple t-shirt and jeans. His eyes showed surprise, then something that might have been relief. "Cristiano," he said simply, stepping aside to let his visitor enter. The hotel room was spacious, but felt intimate in that moment. Messi's suitcase sat open on the bed, half packed with clothes folded with the same precision he applied to his passes. The television was off, and the only light came from a single lamp in the corner. They stood facing each other, two legends in the twilight of their careers, and suddenly the years seemed to melt away. They were no longer the polished superstars who commanded millions in salary and endorsements. They were just two men who had shared an extraordinary journey, even if they had traveled parallel paths. "You're really leaving?" Ronaldo said. It wasn't a question. Messi nodded, sinking into the armchair by the window. "I'm tired, Cristiano. Not physically, I could play for a few more years. But emotionally, I'm exhausted." The Portuguese remained standing, his hands clasped behind his back. "The world expects to see us tomorrow. The world expects many things," Messi replied quietly. "For 20 years, I've carried the expectations of Barcelona, of Argentina, of every child who kicks a ball and dreams of greatness. Tomorrow was supposed to be different, no pressure, just joy. But even that has become another expectation." Ronaldo moved to the window, looking out at the same city lights he had contemplated from his own room. "Do you remember our first match against each other?" A small smile crossed Messi's face. "Manchester United versus Barcelona, 2008 Champions League semi-final. You scored that header in the first leg. You were just a kid then," Ronaldo said. "We both were, really. I thought I was the finished article, the complete player. Then I watched you play, and I realized I had so much more to learn. You made me better," Messi admitted. "Every season, every match, I knew you were pushing boundaries somewhere else. When people asked me about pressure, I always thought about you working harder, running faster, shooting from impossible angles. You never let me rest." The silence stretched between them, comfortable now, filled with the weight of shared history. Outside, the city continued its nocturnal dance, unaware that two of football's greatest legends were having what might be their final conversation as active players. "I used to dream about beating you," Ronaldo said suddenly. "Not just winning matches, I mean truly surpassing you in every way possible. Individual awards, team success, legacy. It consumed me for years." Messi looked up at him. "And now I realize that we needed each other. Your Barcelona made my Real Madrid better. Your creativity pushed my determination. Your natural talent challenged my work ethic. We created something together that neither of us could have achieved alone." The Argentine stood and walked to his suitcase, pulling out a worn photograph. It was from the 2009 Champions League final, both of them young, hungry, standing side by side before the match that would define their careers in so many ways. My son found this in my study last week, Messi said, handing the photo to Ronaldo. He asked me why we never smiled in pictures together. I didn't know how to answer him. Ronaldo studied the image to young men at the beginning of an extraordinary journey, neither knowing that they would spend the next 15 years pushing each other to heights previously unimaginable. What will you tell him now? Ronaldo asked. I don't know. Maybe that sometimes the people who challenge us the most are the ones who help us become who we're meant to be. Maybe that rivalry and respect aren't opposites, they can coexist. Ronaldo handed back the photograph. This game gave us everything, didn't it? Fame, fortune, the love of millions. But the most important thing it gave me was you, someone who made me believe that impossible was just another word for challenging. Messi sat back down, the photograph still in his hands. Then why does leaving feel so difficult? Because endings are always harder than beginnings, Ronaldo replied. When we started, we thought we would play forever. Now we know that even legends have expiration dates. The conversation lapsed into comfortable silence again. Both men were lost in their own thoughts, processing not just their careers but the strange, complex relationship they had shared. They had been rivals, adversaries, and in some inexplicable way, partners in creating football's golden age. There's something I need to tell you, Ronaldo said finally. Something I've never said to anyone. Messi looked up, curious. After the 2015 Ballon d'Or ceremony, when you won your fifth, I went home and didn't speak to anyone for 3 days. Not my family, not my friends, not my teammates. Florentino called me, worried that I might ask for a transfer. What happened? I realized that I wasn't angry at you for winning, I was angry at myself for not appreciating what we had created together. The media always wanted to frame us as enemies, but we never were. We were two artists working on the same masterpiece from different angles. Messi was quiet for a long moment. I felt the same way after you won in 2013, 2014, in 2016. Each time, part of me was devastated, but another part of me was proud that my rival, my measuring stick, had reached the summit again. We pushed each other beyond what anyone thought possible, Ronaldo said. Messi without Ronaldo, Ronaldo without Messi, we would have been great, but not legendary. The Argentine smiled, the first genuine smile Ronaldo had seen from him all evening. Do you think people will understand that someday? That we weren't just competitors, but collaborators in something beautiful? Maybe not now, but eventually. History has a way of revealing the truth about these things. Messi stood up and walked to the window, joining Ronaldo in gazing out at the city below. My father always told me that the true measure of a champion isn't how many times you win, but how you handle both victory and defeat. You taught me that, even when you didn't know it. How so? Every time you bounced back from disappointment, 2010 World Cup, 2012 Euros, losing Champions League finals, you came back stronger. You showed me that greatness isn't about perfection. It's about resilience. It's about getting up one more time than you fall down. Ronaldo turned to face his longtime rival. And you taught me that football is an art form, not just a sport. Watching you play was like watching a master painter create a masterpiece with every brushstroke. You reminded me that technique and creativity are just as important as power and determination. The room fell silent again, but this time the silence was heavy with the weight of impending farewell. Both men knew that this conversation was a form of goodbye, perhaps the most honest goodbye either of them had ever experienced. The charity match tomorrow, Ronaldo said slowly. It's not really about the money we'll raise, is it? What do you mean? It's about closure. It's about writing the final chapter of our story the way it should be written, together, on the pitch where we belong. Messi returned to his suitcase, staring at the half-packed clothes. I'm scared, Cristiano. Scared that I've lost the magic. Scared that the boy from Rosario who just wanted to play football has disappeared somewhere in all the noise and pressure and expectations. The magic doesn't disappear, Ronaldo said firmly. It might hide sometimes, buried under fatigue and disappointment and the weight of carrying everyone's dreams. But it's still there. I've seen it in every match we've played against each other, even in the recent ones, when we're slower, when the touches aren't as precise, when the legs don't respond the way they used to. Especially in those matches, because that's when the magic isn't about physical ability anymore, it's about intelligence, experience, and the kind of football wisdom that only comes from playing at the highest level for 20 years. Messi closed his suitcase and sat on the edge of the bed. What if tomorrow is disappointing? What if we both play poorly and people remember that instead of everything we achieved? Then we'll have been human for 90 minutes, Ronaldo replied. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I don't think that's what will happen. Why not? Because this isn't about proving anything anymore. For the first time in our careers, we can play without the pressure of winning or losing, without individual statistics or team results mattering. We can just play football for the pure joy of it. The Portuguese moved closer, his voice taking on an intensity that reminded Messi of their playing days. This game gave us so much fame, money, experiences beyond our wildest dreams. But the most important thing it gave us was each other. This rivalry that pushed us both to greatness. Before you leave, Ronaldo continued, before we both fade into history and become stories that fathers tell their sons, shouldn't we share one last moment on the pitch? Not as rivals this time, but as partners in something beautiful. Messi looked up, and for a moment, Ronaldo saw the young Argentine who had terrorized defenses across Europe, the player who made impossible seem routine, the artist who painted masterpieces on grass canvases week after week. We should do this for the world, Ronaldo said, his voice soft but persuasive. For all the children who will never see us play again, for all the fans who found joy in our battles, for everyone who believes that football is more than just a game. He paused, then added the words that would echo in both their minds forever. But most importantly, we should do this for us. For everything we've meant to each other, for all the ways we've shaped each other's careers, for the respect that grew between us even when the world wanted us to hate each other. Messi stood up slowly, walking to the window one more time. The city lights blurred as his eyes filled with tears, not tears of sadness, but tears of understanding, of recognition, of acceptance. One last dance, he asked quietly. One last dance, Ronaldo confirmed. For a long moment, they stood there in silence, to legends on the eve of their final performance together, finally understanding that their rivalry had been the greatest gift they could have given each other. Messi turned from the window, walked to his suitcase, and began unpacking his clothes. I'll see you on the pitch tomorrow, he said, and for the first time in years, both men smiled at the same time. Ronaldo nodded, moving toward the door. As his hand touched the handle, he turned back one final time. Leo? Yes, thank you, for everything. For making me better than I ever thought I could be. Thank you too, Cristiano. For showing me that greatness isn't a destination, it's a journey. And I couldn't have asked for a better traveling companion. The door closed softly behind Ronaldo, leaving Messi alone with his thoughts and his unpacked suitcase. Outside, the city continued its eternal dance, unaware that two of football's greatest legends had just written the most beautiful chapter of their extraordinary story. Tomorrow, they would take the field together one last time, not as rivals, but as partners in greatness, ready to remind the world why football is called the beautiful game. The final match awaited.